All right, greetings YouTube. So we're back at you with some more music theory. All right, so we're going to look at scales. We're going to look at one particular scale for today, major scale. And we're going to look at the diatonic chords that pertain to that major scale. And by diatonic, I simply mean that it pertains to that scale. So the chords that we're going to look at, the diatonic chords, means the chords from which, the notes of the chord are taken from the particular major scale. So if we're doing, for example, the C major scale, then all the notes for the various chords that we're going to look at will be notes that are taken from this scale, and you'll understand more in a few moments. Okay, so music theory, we're looking at the following topics: the major scale, we're looking at diatonic chords, meaning chords that pertain to that the particular scale. Okay, and we're also looking at chord progression. And in fact, chord progression is so advanced, so we're going to call this introduction to chord progression. All right, so let's pay attention and let's go. So the first thing we want to look at for this lesson, there is sort of a pattern that major scales follow, and we want to look at that. Let me just break my screen from what we're looking at, and we're going to look at something else. I'm going to take you over to Muse Score so that you can visualize the piano. All right, just a second. I'm not sure if I added the sound, so let's do this again. Make sure that you can hear the sound while you're looking at the keys. Okay, now as we would have mentioned in previous lessons, we have white keys and we have black keys on the piano, and the keys are in groups of 2s and also 3s. Right, so if you want to be sure of the names of the different keys, I'm going to advise you to go back to the previous music lessons that we did on this channel. Now, the C major scale starts on, you guessed it right, C. That's why it's called a C major scale, because even though it has several notes, the note that stands out particularly in this scale is C. It starts on C and it ends on C. And I'm going to ask one of my students to send me a video recording playing the C major scale using the correct fingering. And we will feature your video in our next music lesson. Okay, now we're not focused on fingering for this lesson. We're focusing on just understanding the notes that make up the C major scale. You would recognize this sound as do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and going in reverse, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Good. Now that we've established this movement, let's also see what it looks like when it's written on the musical staff. And of course, this is the treble clef. You would remember that from our last lesson as well. In case you missed that, I'm going to advise you to go back so that you can learn about the treble clef, the bass clef, the names of the lines, and also the names of the spaces. Now, the first note we're going to put here is our C. Okay, that's what C looks like. Next note we're going to put here, not G, I beg your pardon. We went too far. Let's go closer to D. Next note is going to be E. Next note is going to be, in the space, F. Next, we're going to go here to G. Then we're going to go a little higher to A. Then up to B. And C. So just like it sounds, it gradually gets higher. It looks the same way as though you were climbing up a step, a staircase, or a flight of steps, but you are going gradually, one step at a time. And as you go up one step at a time, the pitch starts to get higher. Let's listen to this again. And now let's write this same scale descending. Now, given that we just played the C, I'm not going to write another C. I'm going to start going down. B, then to A, then to G, then to F, then to E, then to D, and finally we end right where we started. As it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. And to make this a little longer, I'm going to make that last note a half note. Now, if it's your first time playing the scale, I'm going to advise you to practice it much slower than it is being played now. All right, let's do that again. And I'm going to sing along with it using the solfege. Ready? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Now for my singers, you would recognize that I am singing an octave lower. Do. So I'm singing down here. Do. But the piano is playing up here. Do. Let me sing in the exact octave that the piano is playing, so you can hear what it sounds like. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. And now let me play one octave lower. Sorry, let me sing one octave lower. Do, re, oops, let's go again. Do, what's going on? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, thing didn't want me to be great. All right, now, given that we have identified what the notes are for the scale, let me in fact write the letters here. So this is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. Then we go back down to B, then to A, then to G, then to F, E, D, and at last we end on C. Okay, so this is the C major scale. So let me add some text to this. Oh, I can't do it by clicking on the letter. I have to click on the note. Okay, C major scale. All right. Now, for each note, we can also play a chord. Now, what is a chord? A chord consists of more than one note being played at the same time. And one of the simplest forms of a chord is a triad. Now, the triad means you're playing 3 notes together, just like the word triangle, a shape that has 3 sides, a tricycle, something that you ride that has 3 wheels. A triad in music is a chord that has 3 notes. That's our first example. Our first triad. That's the C major chord that consists of C, E, and G. Now, just like we played the major scale, we are going to play the triad for each note. And we can play it in descending order as well. Now, this makes me think of Jesus by Shirley Caesar. Of course, that was produced by the late Quincy Jones. Jesus, oh Jesus, oh how I love. Watch this part. See that? Calling your name. So what did I do there? Jesus started at C. Then for the second Jesus, I went all the way up to G. Oh Jesus. And then by the time I get to how I love, I went to F for I love. And then for calling your name, I simply did a walk down. F, E, D, C. Calling your name. Except that for all these notes, each of these notes, I play a chord. So for the C, I play the full triad. Jesus. And then for the G, I play the full triad as well. Oh, Jesus. And then for the F, I play the triad. I love, I love. And then for the walk down, calling your name, I'm going to play a chord for each. Calling your name. See that? Calling I want to slow this really all the way down for those who may be trying this for the first time. So, got these three together. Jesus. Then we're gonna move the thumb all the way up to here, the entire hand. Oh, Jesus. Then we're gonna move down to this one. Oh, how I love. Then we're going to do the walk down. Calling your name. What do I do with my left hand? Well, for now, my left hand just plays one note. So while my right hand is playing chord, my left hand is just playing the root note of the chord, and they go together. Jesus, Jesus, oh how I love. Time to walk down, calling your name. All right, so by the end of this lesson, you should be able to play this. So let me just go ahead and write the diatonic chords in the key of C. I want to write this on the staff, the treble clef, for you. Okay, so it should look like that. Okay, so notice how they are stacked on top of each other because they must be played together, played at the same time. Okay, next is going to be D. That's the D chord. Next we do the E chord. Then we do the F chord. Then we do the G chord. Then the A chord. Then the B chord. Then the C chord. Then we're going to go backwards, go back to B, go back to A, go back to G, go back to F, back to E, back to D, and finally we end on C, and I want to make C into a half note. And I'm just going to remove these additional bars because I don't need them right now. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to label the chords so you know what they are. This is C. Okay. C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and this one is B diminished, C major. And we go back to B diminished, A minor, G major, F major, E minor, D minor, and finally C major. All right, so if you have questions, you can leave it in the chat and we will try to answer you in another lesson. So of course, there are further explanations to all of these, but I'm just trying to set a basic foundation to give a general understanding. All right. For those of you who do private lessons with me, you would get the full breakdown to all of this, and I will also share with you the PDF and, if need be, the audio for what's on this sheet. All right, so in another lesson we can look into the difference between major chord, minor chord, and a diminished chord. There's more explanation to that, but the main understanding for the formation of all these chords, I'm going to press here. Now you can notice the keys that are highlighted here, the three keys that are highlighted. Notice the C is highlighted, then the D is skipped, then the E is also highlighted, the F is skipped, and the G is highlighted. Now this pattern of playing every other note from the scale is maintained as we move up to the next note. Notice here we're at D. It's the same principle. We play the D, skip one, play the F, skip another one, we play the A. Notice for E, it's the same thing. Play the E, skip the F, play the G, skip the A, play the B. So it's consistently every other note of the scale that's put together to create each chord, and these are played together. All right. So of course, if you need more guidance, more personal one-on-one guidance, then you may have to reach out to have some private lessons. You can also stay tuned for the next lesson. Of course, these are just introductory lessons. Full explanation and personal guidance will need private lessons. So don't be afraid to invest in yourself to get some private lessons. All right. So let me add a title to this. These are typically introductory courses that I give to all my students. Now, I'm going to switch what I'm sharing and go back to the whiteboard. See if we could document this so that we could develop a system that you guys can follow. All right, so my whiteboard has been loaded. So these are the three topics that we are going to cover today. Now, I'm going to draft up a table. And in this table, we are going to write something like the rules for all major scales. Now, if you are a total beginner, I'm sorry, you might get lost along the way somehow, but not to worry. If you stick and stay, eventually you will get more understanding. Alright, if you stay connected, stay glued to this channel, you will gather more and more understanding. Alright. Now, when it comes on to music, guys, it is not something you can rush, so you have to be very patient with yourself. A lot of people get frustrated and just give up and tell themselves that, hey, music is not for me, because they see other people playing music and it seems like they just do it and it just seems so easy. Well, it's not always like that, guys. It takes effort. So what am I going to put here? There is a concept of root note, whole, whole, half, whole, whole, whole again, and then half. I may need to go back to the piano to help reinforce this concept, but just give me a second. Let me create some more space here. Now, in the meantime, those of you who are watching this, could you explain to me, on behalf of everyone else who's watching, what is the difference between a whole step and a half step on the piano? And if you're a guitar player, you should be able to relate to this as well. What is the difference between a whole step and a half step? Now what I'm going to do to create a separation, I'm going to put a line between each word. Now this thing is giving me a little challenge, as you can see, but we are very patient. Take our own little time and get this done. And I hope you guys are being patient along with me. First, if you are just watching this channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. If you know anybody that always wanted to learn music, but maybe they couldn't afford it, or maybe they didn't have the patience, maybe they just never got the opportunity to do what they really love doing and would love to do, this is a perfect opportunity for you to share this link with them and ask them kindly to subscribe. That is how you help to support this channel. And also like and leave us a comment. Let us know how much we are helping you to achieve your goal of understanding music. Alright, so we like to look at it from a practical perspective and also from a simple theoretical perspective. Now, remember this table, guys. We have root, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 and half again. We're going to come back to this table, but let me take you back over to Muse score and let us examine this idea. Now we have the piano. From C to D is considered a whole step. All right, bear that in mind. From C to D is considered a whole step. However, from C to C sharp, which is that black key, is considered a half step. So notice from C to D, we had to ignore this black key. So let us say we started here. We had to pass over that black key to get to D, which is right here. And also, if we wanted to go from D to E, we have to pass over this black key. So essentially, once you are skipping over another key, it is a whole step, because two halves make one whole. Think about having an orange. Two halves make one whole. So from here, or let's use this one. Right. From here to here is a half step, but from here to here is a whole step. From D to D sharp is a, that's right, half step. And from D to E is a whole step. Okay, now here's a challenge for you. From E to F, what is this? Is this a whole step or a half step? This is a half step. Now someone is saying, how comes from D to E is a whole step and you're just playing the two white keys that are beside each other, but all of a sudden E to F, which are also two white keys that are beside each other, is only a half and not a whole? What's the difference between these two and these two? The difference is, for these two, there is a black key in the middle. But for these two, there is nothing else in the middle. So, because of how close they are with no other note between them, they end up becoming a half step. Because remember, we had to skip over the C sharp to get to D. So we started here, we skipped over this one, and we came here. So that's a whole. If we start on D, we skip over this one, and we come here. Now that's a whole. Okay, so there are two different places on the piano where two white keys that are next to each other are actually only half steps. The first one is E to F, and the other one is B to C. Half steps. And we could look at the black keys too. We could say, starting from here, F sharp to G sharp is also a whole step. Why? Because we had to skip over this one that's right in the middle. If we went from F sharp to G, Now this is a half step, but from F sharp to G sharp is a whole step. So hopefully you guys get the idea of what is a whole step and what is a half step. Let's examine the C major scale. We started off with C, and then we go to D. So the one that we start on, that's the root note, our starting point. So we start on the root or the tonic. Okay, but let's just use root for now, since we understand that a tree grows out of its roots. The root is the foundation of the thing. So from C to D, we move from the root and we go up a whole step. From D to E, that's another whole step. From E to F, now this is a half step. From F to G, this is a whole step. From G to A, this is a whole step. From A to B, this is a whole step. From B to C, this is a half step. So this is why we say root, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 and half. Any questions? Leave it in the comments. Or if you do understand, you can leave that in the comments as well. Now then, let's go back to our whiteboard. And let's put this down in a sequence. So first we have the root note, starting point, C. Then we go up a whole step, that takes us to D. Another whole step takes us to E. Then a half step takes us to F, because remember, there is no black key between E and F. Then we go up a whole step from F, that takes us to G. A whole step from G takes us to A. Another whole step from A takes us to, where does it take us? It takes us to B. Okay, so I'm going to have to make this longer. And a half step from B takes us to C, because there is no black key between B and C, no black key between E and F. All the rest, you have to move a whole step. So if I use this same formula, if you will, I could figure out what the notes of the G major scale are. So I start on G, that's my starting point, that's my root. I need to go up a whole step. So what's my next note? A. Another whole step. What's my note? B. A half step from B. What's my note? C. a whole step from C. What's my note? D. And a whole step from D. E. And another whole step from E, F sharp, because E to F is only a half step. So we have to add another half step. Two halves make a whole. So E to F sharp is a whole step. And then a half step from F sharp takes us back to G. Can we try another one? Let's try D major. So my root is D. Now I need a whole step from D. Where will that take me to? Takes me to E. A whole step from E, where will that take me to? Takes me to F sharp. Then a half step from F sharp takes me to G. A whole step from G takes me to A. A whole step from A takes me to B. And a half step from B takes me to C sharp. Sorry, a whole step. What did I say half? A whole step from B takes me to C sharp. And now finally, I need a half step from C sharp. So that then takes me to D. So in your spare time, you can go ahead and experiment and see if you can name at least 7 different major scales using this challenge. All right, and let's just stick with the white keys for now. So let's see if we could name the notes of all the white keys. Again, you can send me your drawing, send me your table, and let's see if you get all your notes right, and I could possibly feature you in our next music lesson. You can feature your drawing. Okay. All right. Now, I want you guys to pay attention to something. Let's see if we can use another 15 minutes to explain this properly. Notice the order in which the notes appear. There's the first note, then there is the second note, then there's the third note, fourth note, the fifth note of the scale, seventh note of the scale, sorry, sixth, and then seventh. My thoughts are moving faster than my hands are moving on this technology here. Seventh, and finally the eighth note. This is a system that we use at church a lot. So if you guys hear me talking to the musicians, especially the keyboard players, the bass players, the guitar players, even the saxophone players, as long as you're playing melodic instrument, at some point I do use these numbers to communicate, and musicians generally know what to do once I tell them the number. This springs from you knowing the scale and knowing which chord, which key, which note comes next. You are then able to know which note to play. Okay. So what we're going to do below this, we're going to write Roman numerals. And this will represent the different chords that you should play. So for the first, we write a 1 in Roman numeral, and that's usually capital. For the second, we use 2, that's normally lowercase because this is minor. For 3, lowercase because that's also minor. 4, uppercase because now this is major. And the 5 is also major. 6, we go back to minor, so we use lowercase. And it's gonna take me a while to get this degree looking sign to go along with the 7 that would represent the diminished. Yeah, but I can't find it right now, so all right. And the 8th is a repetition of the 1, and it is just an octave higher. So what would we be doing for these? We would be playing the chords. Remember we looked at the diatonic chords earlier? So for the 1 chord, you would be playing C, E, and G together. For the 2 chord, you would be playing D, F, and A together. For the 3 chord, it would be, talk to me, what would it be? E. What else do we play with the E? G, and B. For the 4 chord, it would be F, A, and C. For the 5 chord, G, B, and D. For the 6 chord, A, C, E. For the 7 chord, B, D, and F. So, in order to ensure that we do not get confused, I'm going to put a line here. Now this line lets us know that what's below it are chords. Alright, so above we have scales. First we have the C major scale. To find me, I need to get me a line. And the line is not cooperating with me. And we have another scale, the G major scale. And the final scale that we have on this page in this lesson is the D major scale. And let's see if I can make my table just a little bit neater. Alright. And what I'm going to do is remove that partition. So these two, first is written using numbers, and then below we're using Roman numerals, and then you have the names of the notes that make up each chord. Alright, and for those who are advanced, well, you've been with me for a little while, you know that your 1 is major, which other one is major? Well, let's just go in order. The 2 is minor, right, smaller for minor. The 3 is also minor. The 4 is major. 5 is also major. 6 is minor. And the 7th we said was, who remembers what the 7 is? Starts with D. Diminished. For short, just write dim. And back to major. Alright guys, so that's where we will stop for today. Whatever questions you have, feel free to write in. This is mainly meant just to give you an understanding of the theoretical concept. Alright, if you can't process the entire video at once, feel free to take a break wherever you desire. So you could just learn the major scale and then take a break. Then you could come back, learn the diatonic chords, take another break, and then attempt to understand the number system that we have used for each degree of the scale. Thank you so very much. That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. All the blessings and peace that God has to offer, we wish that upon you. Take care.